What's a really fucked up thing you've witnessed as a kid but didn't realize it was until you were older?
I remember when I was about 11 or 12. Our neighbors were a family of 5 kids. They were terrible. I was afraid of the dad who would curse and scream at his kids and the neighbor kids, including my sister and I. He was an awful person. He would beat the hell out of those kids. He would take them into his bedroom, which was right across from my window, and I could hear everything. They would scream and cry. I can still hear it to this day. The next day the kids would be black and blue. I begged my parents to call the police, but they wouldn't. They weren't the greatest parents either. I have no idea how I was brave enough, but I anonymously called Child Protective Services, and I remember they came out the next day and interviewed the kids. Nothing ever happened, but the parents went around the neighborhood telling everyone they got a lawyer and they were going to sue whoever reported the false allegations. Horrible people.
My parents fighting. Whoever was losing would say to me, "I'm going to run away and drown myself if mommy daddy don't stop shouting. I can't take it anymore," and then proceed to leave the house. They're both still alive, and in hindsight I don't know if they ever meant what they said, but now I'm about to have a child of my own. I can't ever imagine doing that to a child, let alone my own child.
Living in an abusive situation as a whole. As a child, domestic violence was the norm for me. When I was at a friend from elementary school one time, and his parents were having a disagreement over something, I asked my friend when they'd start hitting each other, and he just looked at me funny, not getting what I meant. As an adult, looking back on my childhood, it's only then you really understand how fucked up it all was. As a child it's intense and frightening, but you don't yet grasp the full situation yet. As a kid I knew things were wrong. I just didn't know how wrong exactly. I was very much developmentally behind people my age. It's just that I couldn't make friends to help me by A, pointing it out, and B, helping me grow up. And the only way I ever actually even noticed in the first place was by getting away from those toxic assholes. As far as I know, one of my siblings still lives with our mother, early 40s. The other one may have lived with her until she was in her late 30s or later.
And seriously relate to this, especially that last statement. It took until I'd been out of the house 3 years and then lucked into going to university for me to realize that the vast majority of people around me did not live like that, that the young people around me had learned all kinds of social and personal skills I'd never even been exposed to, and that I had no clue how an ordinary person thought, felt or behaved. Took years for me to cobble together an ordinary person face so I could just live in the same world as everyone else. But I did and got through to my 70s without repeating the pattern. For me, that's a major victory.
When I was around 11, a younger boy, maybe 6 or 7, on the school bus told me how he shared a bed with his mom. He said sometimes her boyfriend would come over and he would have to cover himself with a blanket while the mom and boyfriend wrestled in bed. I didn't have the heart to tell him.
My aunt hanged herself in the kitchen while she was supposed to be babysitting me. I was 5 and asleep when it actually happened, so I didn't know my parents had gone out and left me with her. I remember waking up and walking into the kitchen and she was hanging, but it didn't really register that it was my aunt because her face was obscured by her hair. I was by myself for more than a couple of hours until I started crying, can't remember why. Neighbors came to see what the fuss was about and called my parents and the police. Parents were pretty devastated because the reason they asked her to babysit me was because my brother had an emergency, ruptured appendix, and they came home to yellow tape around the house. At her funeral I was told she died because she had been sick. Was around 13/14 when I figured out it was suicide.